so-and-so is not spending time with me. I told you he doesn't love me. If he loved me, he'd spend time with me. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mel. I know it's been a hot minute, my apologies, but you know, life gets in the way sometimes. To the new and returning subscribers, I'm excited to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning back in. And for those who are not yet part of this happy family and are still looking around, feel free to check out the other videos on the channel. And if this is the sort of content that you enjoy, just click the subscribe button below and join my family. We are free and we are a happy bunch, okay? In today's video, we are going to be looking at a psychological model that is known as attachment theory. Within this model, we will be exploring the types of attachment styles that they are and how these attachment styles play a role in our social and romantic relationships. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of our discussion, let's get the technical bits out of the way. I'm going to begin this conversation by defining what attachment theory is actually all about. Let me start off by saying that as people, we are born with an innate desire to connect with other people. The need to belong is actually one of the things that drives us as individuals. No matter how aloof or how much of a recluse someone is, everyone needs some sort of connection, some sort of contact with the outside world. So, attachment theory states, let me read this out for you, that one's relationship with their parents and caregivers during childhood has an overarching influence on their social and intimate relationships in the future. Simply put, your early relationship with your caregivers influences how you will build relationships as an adult. The two are very much correlated. Attachment theory falls into two camps: secure attachment and insecure attachment. Insecure attachment can actually be broken down further into three subtypes, which are anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and disorganized attachment. So this gives us a total of 4 attachment types. And we're going to start off with the one that is considered the most healthiest, which is secure attachment. People with a secure attachment had dependable caregivers. As children, they're allowed to go out and explore the world, but at the same time, they felt safe and protected by their caregivers. In adults, securely attached people have the following traits. 1, they have the ability to send and receive expressions of intimacy. They do not hide behind walls. 2, they do not smother their partners, but trust them to live an independent life. 3, they feel comfortable getting close with other people. 4, they tend to have a positive view of relationships as well as of personal interactions. 5, people with secure attachments tend to feel secure whether they're alone or they're in a relationship. A relationship does not affect their self-worth. And last but not least, people with a secure attachment know when to be honest, when to be supportive, as well as when to be intimate. These are not the sort of people that you are going to find accidentally going through your emails. The second type of attachment style we're going to look at is called anxious or preoccupied. People with this type of attachment style are generally considered needy. And it's common in people who had parents who were absent, maybe because of work, or their parents were dealing with their own issues like addiction, depression, grief, divorce, whatever. The bottom line is there's an absence of caregiver during the formative years. So what does this type of attachment look like in adulthood? People with anxious attachment tend to constantly worry about being too much or too little for their partners. Number 2, they do not live in the moment, and they tend to place a lot of high hopes on their partners and tend to get attached to the potential of a partner. So I know I've said in a previous video that when people fall for people, they fall in love with an idea and not specifically the person. So the anxiously attached person tends to stay mostly in the realm of the fantasy when it comes to relationships. 3, they fear reject and neglect from their partners. And because this is something that they fear so much, to quell those fears, they tend to indulge in obsessive behaviors. These are the people who over-communicate, text you 24/7. They will stalk you on Facebook, refresh your profile, do the most. And anxiously attached people are generally possessive, jealous, controlling, oversensitive, and tend to have mood swings. Anxiously attached people expect for their relationships to define them, to complete them, or to rescue them. They're also very codependent because they fear being alone. Anxiously attached people require a lot of support, a lot of validation, a lot of approval, a lot of responsiveness from their partner. So when they get this sort of feedback from their partners, it sort of becomes a remedy for their anxiety. And if they don't get it, that is when they go bananas and off the rail. People with anxious attachment are also drama-oriented. They're constantly dealing with issues within the relationship, or even inventing issues within the relationship. They play mind games. You know, some of the mind games that we've talked about on the channel, hot and cold and so forth. They can be very manipulative. They start fights and they create a very chaotic and toxic atmosphere within the relationship. This is not to say they're bad people. I'm just pointing out some of their common traits. They also tend to push their partners away and become a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, when their partner starts getting close with other people, befriending other people, they'll start saying things like, see, so-and-so is not spending time with me. I told you he doesn't love me. If he loved me, he'd spend time with me. Anyway, last but not least, we can say they are very suspicious of other people's intentions, words, and actions. The third style of attachment is avoidant or dismissive. People with this style of attachment seem to have no feelings. Have you ever come across such people? I normally think of them as zombies. Anyway, the style of attachment is common in people who, during childhood, their needs were either dismissed or considered trivial. So what these people did in childhood is that they stopped communicating their needs to their caregivers, and they turned inward and shut down, and generally became independent and self-reliant. As adults, people with an avoidant attachment style tend to view emotions and connections as relatively unimportant. They can't be bothered with your drama, with your emotions, kind of thing. 2, they tend to sabotage romantic relationships from nowhere. And this is because they fear that their new partner is going to leave them, so they want to beat you to the punch. Get out before you can get an opportunity to hurt them. 3, most people with an avoided attachment tend to have commitment issues. Some of them prefer to stay single and not get involved in any serious or semi-serious relationships, while some who get into committed relationships tend to value their autonomy above all else. You've heard that saying, Kuti, this person behaves like they're single, but let's say they're married or something. People with avoidant attachment style also don't prioritize relationship. Other life goals like work, travel, personal projects, fun supersede everything else. They supersede relationships. So relationships are pretty low on the hierarchy of what it is that they value. Again, these people, like I explained earlier, they learned self-reliance at a very young age. So they tend to be very self-reliant, and they're emotionally and physically very independent. And this is an outcome of having to learn how to self-soothe as a child. People who exhibit avoidant attachment style tend to avoid intimacy. They cannot be vulnerable. They will head for the hills whenever it is, when people try to get them involved in emotionally dense or emotionally demanding type of conversations or situations. And I think I did mention this briefly though, but they desire freedom physically and emotionally. They're the sort of people like, no, you cannot tie me down. I need my space to breathe. You're suffocating me. Those are some of their common phrases. Have you guys heard that before? Have you come across someone who says stuff like that? Or do you say stuff like that? Shady boots. Last but not least, we have the disorganized attachment style. All right. So people who fall under this category tend to be generally unpredictable and erratic. And it's very common in people who experience some form of emotional or physical abuse as children, or people who went through some challenging life experiences like grief, abandonment, you know. So what does this look like in adulthood? How do people with a disorganized attachment style behave? Well, firstly, they are the kings and the queens of self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, they crave connection, but fear losing it, right? So they tend to retaliate, cause drama, find themselves in a lot of arguments once they get into the drama. So it's sort of like, stop it, I like it, but in a bad way. They want it, but at the same time, they don't want that connection. 2, expanding on the first point, they are simultaneously afraid of getting either too close or too distant from a partner. They want to jump in, but at the same time, they don't want to get wet. So there's that fear. Thirdly, they struggle to keep their emotions in check, and they tend to be easily overwhelmed and experience a lot of mood swings. People with a disorganized attachment style do not have an organized strategy on how they can get their needs met by another person. Person with a healthy attachment style, if they've got a need, they will communicate to their partner, listen, I need more attention, I need more affection, you know. Whilst if you've got a disorganized attachment style, you don't know how to get your needs met. On one hand, you want the intimacy, but on the other hand, you do not want to get close enough to receive that intimacy or to have your needs met. So people with this type of attachment tend to fear annihilation physically and emotionally. They don't want to lose themselves in someone else. And that makes them very strange bedfellows, I'd say. Anyway, they're suspicious of other people's intentions, actions, and words, and they tend to push people away and have very few close, intimate relationships. So we've briefly looked at the types of attachment styles that are there. And I think what is a good takeaway from this conversation is that most people have various degrees of each of the traits. It's hard to get someone who's categorically something. People tend to be a mash of the 4 styles, right? So what can we do to break the cycle? Because outside of secure attachment, the other 3 common traits or styles of attachment are pretty toxic. First and foremost, I think the good news is that our attachment styles are not set in stone. They can be changed. You can actually do something about it. And how do you do that? 1, if you've got an insecure attachment style, develop relationships with people with a secure attachment style. I'm a strong believer in that whoever it is that you're in partnership with, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, they should bring out the best in you, not the crazy in you. Do you understand? No one is perfect, but they should bring something positive. If you find someone who makes you crazy and they don't balance you out or they don't help your peace of mind, don't do it. Secondly, communicate with your partner. So, fun fact, your partner is not a mind reader. Use your words. So regular communication will help you both manage expectations. It will help to build trust within the relationship because you know what the other person is thinking and what they're feeling. And it will also help you maintain personal boundaries within the relationship. 3, you need to be committed to self-awareness and have a willingness to grow. The reason we explore or deep dive into certain characteristics that we exhibit as people is to be able to better understand ourselves and to relate better with the world around us. So if you find that you have got a certain attachment style that has been detrimental to your relationships, you need to stop and try and fix it. It's a personal decision and it's a lot of hard work. It will go contrary to your nature or what you're used to. But like everything, the more you practice, the more it becomes part of you. Last but not least, if you find that your attachment styles have completely ruined your life and you cannot change it, you do not have the discipline or the ability to fix your issues because you cannot attach properly or connect properly with people, do not be ashamed to seek professional help. Talk to a counselor, talk to a psychiatrist, get professional help. With that said, we have come to the end of our video. I'm going to leave a link to one of the quizzes I've taken to help you figure out what sort of attachment style you have. And in addition to all that, I'm also going to leave my details below so that you can connect with me across social media. So until the next time we meet somewhere on the lovely internet, Musare Minyasha.